Hi there, my name's Joe and I'm the Communication and Engagement Officer for the Community Science Project. I'm often the first point of contact for new volunteers who've maybe heard about the project, and my job's to try and get them interested, keep them involved, but also a big part of my job is shouting about why our project is great and trying to generate press for it. It's a long-term project which is led by our volunteers, and what we're trying to do, or what they're trying to do I should say, is to capture long-term information about how climate change might be impacting on blanket bog habitats.
My name's Tom and I'm Community Science Project Officer. My job is to kind of oversee the science side of the project. I do training of volunteers in all the wildlife surveys, train people up on how to do the environmental monitoring, a bit of volunteer recruitment, some engagement, but mainly I'm dealing with the science. Volunteers are really, really vital to this project. Without them, it wouldn't have happened. They are the life and soul of community science.
The aim really is to get that context about if the bog is changing in the future because of climate, and if so, how. It's only by getting that information in the long term that we can really start to see patterns or trends. One of the great things about our project is that not only do we use the information in Moors for the Future partnership to try and influence land management, for example, but we also make it available nationally. So all our biological records, so that's things like wildlife sightings, bumblebee transects, end up on a national database held by the Biological Record Centre, which means it's not only useful to us, but it can be useful in the future to a whole range of other people.
All the surveys have been set up with volunteers in mind, so their contributions really are the only reason why we're collecting so much data. Without them, it just wouldn't have been possible. Volunteers have hopefully been able to learn lots of new skills with community science. The obvious ones are wildlife surveying techniques and wildlife identification, so things like bumblebees and sphagnum moss ID. But I think kind of teamwork and other things, more social skills, are also really important in community science. So our volunteers go out together. Some of them have learnt to lead groups, which might be something they've not done before. When we've got the data, people are able to actually play with that data, manipulate it, process it, so they're also learning new skills in the office as well.
Over 1,000 different volunteers have given 16,500 hours. That's almost 1 million minutes and about 7 years full-time work.
Our volunteers have monitored nearly 800 vegetation quadrats.
In our photo competition, we've had over 1,200 entries from many different countries around the world.
Our volunteers have performed 850 bumblebee surveys.
Hi, I'm Natasha. I've been a volunteer for 2 years now. I moved from Japan to the UK and I wanted to know what kind of environmental work was going on in the Peak District. So I just decided being a volunteer would be a good way to start and find out what's going on and what conservation issues there are and things in the UK, and potentially look for some job opportunities as well. I'm currently a research and monitoring officer as well as a GIS officer with Moors for the Future. So after a successful and enjoyable stint of volunteering, I got this job and I'm currently working with the community science team who do a range of different things, and I'm helping with the volunteer inductions as well as a bit of GIS work and social media stuff, so it's all really fun. There's lots of different things going on and they all have different levels of time commitment. Firstly, we have the wildlife surveys, so just anybody can do those while they're out and about on the moors. While you're going for a walk, just look for some key species such as mountain hares, birds like the curlew, butterflies, snakes and lizards. And then we have the transect surveys, which take a little bit more time. As the name suggests, you just walk along a transect line and try to spot a few key things. So we have the buds, berries and leaves survey, the bumblebee survey, and the big moss map sphagnum survey. And finally, the tails, the uplands, otter, water vole and mink survey. The last group of surveys we have are the environmental monitoring surveys. These ones are done long term at different environmental sites spread throughout the Peak District and measure things like water table depth, rainfall, temperature and vegetation. These are usually done monthly with a group of volunteers. They're all lots of fun to get involved with, and you can learn new skills, meet new people and contribute to the growing body of knowledge on how the moors are changing with restoration and climate change.
Over 1,200 volunteers have attended 117 different training sessions.
Thanks everyone for coming back. Hope you had a nice break. What we're going to do now is...
My name is Hamish, I'm 11 years old. I got involved with Moors for the Future in the summer of 2017. Me and my mummy have been on 2 community science training days. During these there were things including species identification, habitat, how to carry out the survey, how to put in the data, and when to carry out the surveys. It has definitely been very good fun doing the community science that we have done because it's very interesting, it's very educational, it's good, and it's contributing to real science.
Hello, I'm Christine and I'm Hamish's mum. I decided to get involved in the project because I've come from a background of conservation, so it's an interest of mine anyway, and I thought it was probably a good way to engage Hamish and for us both to learn something together.
Hi, I'm Molly and I work for Moors for the Future as a research and monitoring officer. I first got involved with Moors for the Future through the community science project. So when I was at university, I volunteered with them to learn how to survey bumblebees initially and then sphagnum. And then once I finished university, I had loads of time on my hands and wanted to stay in the area and keep doing something local. And so I got in contact with community science. There were lots of vegetation surveys going on, and I just basically said yes to everything and got involved in loads of stuff. I ended up volunteering maybe 2 or 3 days a week for about the first 6 months, which was really good. I got to do loads of different stuff, helping at events, learning how to fix loggers, going out and collecting data, and meeting lots of other volunteers as well, which was really interesting.
My name's Martin and I joined the volunteer programme shortly after I retired. I've always enjoyed the outdoors and walking in the hills, and this was an opportunity to give a real purpose to getting outside as much as anything. I have a real fondness for this part of the world. I was brought up in East Cheshire, and I remember from my childhood trips to the Hope Valley and to Kinder Scout, and remember clambering over the peat hags as an 11-year-old and thinking this is all a bit of a muddy mess. And so coming back to it, it all sort of brings back those memories, and it's nice to be able to sort of contribute a bit to the restoration of them. I think the most enjoyable thing has been learning about the whole process. I mean, it's a world that was completely alien to me. I came from a job which involved sitting behind a desk most of the time, but learning about the whole process of revegetation, leading eventually to the planting of sphagnum moss. That whole process has been quite a revelation, really, and along the way you pick up all sorts of other learnings about the vegetation, the grasses, the bumblebees, the other wildlife, the opportunity to spot and record other species. It's just been a great learning process from something which I knew nothing about.
Hi, my name's Jane and I started volunteering with the community science team at Moors for the Future 5 years ago, and I've done that on and off for the last 5 years, and now I'm a conservation works officer with Moors for the Future. What I've enjoyed most about being a volunteer is the opportunity to be able to undertake work that you love doing and that's interesting because you can, and the opportunity to be able to choose something that you're passionate about without having it become a formal employment or a formal training means it's open to absolutely anybody. And the learning, the training and the events that the community science team have developed over the years mean that you get a lot of new knowledge as well as experiential learning. And the great thing ultimately is that you can just do it on your own, you can do it as a group, you can do it whenever you want, and I can continue to do it having set up my own bumblebee survey transect, for the rest of my days.
The range of people who've been involved in community science has been really interesting and really great. It's not kind of any one particular type of person that's been involved, and that for me has been a really interesting part of the project. People who've learned how to use new equipment, downloading data from electronic devices out on the hill, and then office-based skills such as data processing, Excel skills, and also going out and doing engagement activities with us. So we've had volunteers going out and kind of promoting the project to new faces, and I think that's a great way to use volunteers, because to encourage new people to get involved, it's great for them to see the faces already doing it and enjoying themselves.
The project's been represented at over 350 events. Over the last 3 years, members from Crisis have attended over 28 different events.
My name's Nick, I'm Technical Skills Coordinator at Crisis Skylight South Yorkshire. We're a homeless charity, a national charity. We have a learning team, a housing team, progression team, so we do a full support of members from supporting with their learning needs plus getting them back on the straight and narrow. So we run monthly moorlands walks. We come out to the Peak District. We work with our members to engage them during the month building up, and then we work with Moors for the Future guys who take us out on conservation projects, different topics each month. We've done a variety of different courses. Members that we work with don't actually get out of the city or the towns that they're in, so it's great to bring them out into the Peak District, especially the guys who are here from different countries can get to see a different side of England. Also it supports them with the mental health and the physical health and well-being and doing some exercise and being outside.
I am Shahla. I enjoy my view and the deer, and then helper was very helpful and then was very nice and friendly.
We've worked with almost 100 young people through our Mickey project.
I'm Jackie and I'm a Youth Engagement Officer. Mickey, which is Moorland Indicators of Climate Change Initiative, is one of the first things that I did when I volunteered. So even though I've got a position now, a paid position, I started my role as a volunteer. What I would do is support Joe and the rest of the team in providing activities for youth groups and school groups, actually coming out onto peatland landscapes and doing a range of monitoring activities. The focus of Mickey was really to measure a range of different indicators of peatland ecosystems and how healthy they are, and the kids obviously learn from that a lot about using different techniques that they do use at school as well, but also they learn how important it is to get that period of monitoring every year so that we can actually monitor the change over time and how peatlands are responding to climate change.
Hi, it's Tom again. If you'd like to find out more about the information we've collected so far in the project, then have a look at moorsforthefuture.org.uk and you can find our preliminary report which summarises the first 3 years of data we've collected. None of this would have been possible without our amazing volunteers, so I just want to say a huge thank you to everybody who's been involved in collecting some data for us, analysing data, inputting data, and all the truly amazing work you've done throughout the project. Thank you!